Let's do a side-by-side comparison of the Roger Federer and Jack Sock forehands. Now remember, if you're looking for new people in your local area to play against, practice with, or even find a coach who's going to help you with your forehand, use my link in the description, playyourcourt.com/2minute tennis. And when you use my link, you get 50% off when you join. All right, we can't do a comparison between these two without talking about the grips that they use. Now, Federer definitely uses an Eastern grip, but it's pretty low. So the Eastern grip is panel 3 for a right-hander, and this line is the very center of the Eastern grip. And I would actually tell you that Federer's pretty low on an Eastern. He's not on the corner between an Eastern and a semi-Western, but he definitely is low on an Eastern, and that's where he's going to put the base knuckle of his index finger and his heel pad, and he's going to place both of those on panel 3, but the low part of 3. Now, Jack Sock uses a full Western, and that's the very bottom of the handle. So you're going to put the base knuckle of your index finger and your heel pad on panel number 5. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you use this grip because I think it has a ton of limitations, but there is a precedent of pros at a very high level using this for their forehand. Now, I guess I should have said the first thing is, don't feel like you have to copy what we're learning here in this video. This is definitely for entertainment purposes only. We're just looking for a fun video with the differences between Federer and Jack Sock. So the first thing is, I want you to look at the distance between Jack's racket and his head compared to Federer. Right? That's a cool difference. The camera angles are slightly different, so it might show a slight different perspective here, but still, it's very obvious when I watch Jack how close his racket is to his head with the distance that you see between Federer and his racket. The next idea is I want you to pay close attention to the difference in the way they drop the racket. Now, both of them use very much of a lag where the racket's on the outside of the hand and then their hand pulls forward. Right? You see their hand pull forward, and that's what lays the racket back into that slot position where the butt cap's pointing at the ball. But notice with Federer, his arm extends down. So look at Federer and look how his arm straightens down. It almost looks like he's dribbling a basketball and he's pushing down. Now look at Jack. His hand is actually coming toward the camera. His hand is coming toward us, the viewers. And his arm is extending, but his arm is not extending down. And this is actually one of the reasons why he can hit the ball so hard, because he actually hits pretty flat. You'll notice that Federer's hand gets lower below the ball than Jack's. Now, Jack gets the racket below his hand, but the reason Jack's racket goes below his hand is the looseness of his hand and the racket whipping underneath with that pre-stretch forehand, that lag forehand. I'm saying pre-stretch because that's what Vic Braden called it. But that movement, you notice Jack is not getting his hand very far below the ball. You can see his palm facing up with that full Western grip. And Federer's palm is facing very similar to the direction his strings are pointing. Again, a highlight of, or a hallmark really, of the Eastern forehand. So it's a cool little distinction that Federer's hand goes down and Jack reaches back toward the back fence. If I were to actually tell you which one to copy, I'd actually tell you to copy this. Not because Jack Sock's forehand isn't amazing, but just as a recreational player and club player, we tend to do better by dropping the hand below contact. Now, I want you to notice their bodies coming up. So this is a really cool thing. Let's put a line at the top of their heads. So we're going to see their heads pop up above that line. You hear coaches talk about stay down when you hit the ball and just use your hand. Well, I kind of have a problem with that. And let me explain what I mean here. The pros often go up prior to hitting, and then they're done going up by the time they hit the ball. So watch this with Fed and Jack here. Watch their heads go up, and then by the time they hit the ball, they're done going up. So watch this again. They're below the green line. They're pressing against the ground. You can see Jack right here. Here's a perfect view of Jack's right knee, where it's bent, and then look how it straightens as he rotates. He's coming up. Now again, he's done going up. Both of them are done going up by the time they contact the ball. Let's put that green line above their head. This is really important because you could say, well, Ryan, they're not going up as they hit, and you're right, but they've gone up prior to hitting. That uses the energy from the legs, and it allows it to go through the body, right, into the ball. So you actually want to come up with your body and then be done going up by the time you make contact. That's actually how you transfer the energy from the ground all the way through the body to the ball. Now, this is where both of them very much go right to left, and they definitely make this move. This is not something I teach my students, because typically when recreational and club players do this, when people are trying to improve their forehand, they typically don't improve it by going more left, and they definitely improve it when going more up. In fact, here on the right, I've got Djokovic, and I just want to show you the difference in the upward swing. No one really thinks of Djokovic as using like a windshield wiper or from right to left type of swing. I want you to notice his follow through and how it goes actually over the shoulder. It's one of the things that I teach my students, and I think it makes a world of difference with the consistency for club players. And the last thing I want to show you is where their body faces when they're done hitting. One thing I like about Jack is that he doesn't rotate his body at the end as much as Federer. And this is actually something that I think hurts club players when it comes to their ability to react going forward, is they have like a bit of over rotation. And I actually like that Jack doesn't have very far to go. And if you notice, to face forward for the next ball, he's already facing forward, where Federer has this tremendous, like basically over rotation when he's done. Now, 20 Grand Slams can't be argued with. I'm not talking about Federer here. I'm not saying that he's wrong. I'm saying if, as a club player, if you want to copy one of these, you would actually copy this forehand where you don't over rotate at the end. Now, this is actually something that I've heard Patrick M. I'm not 100% sure how he pronounces his name. You know who he is, the coach. He talks about how you can have the hands go and then the body. And let me show you what that actually means. It's actually a correct idea. And it is where the body rotates, and you'll see Jack Sock and Federer watch their body rotate. And then right here, their body actually becomes very quiet, and they allow the hand to accelerate. It's a power source. When you slow the body down, and it's a reactive break. When you get the body to slow down, and one of the ways they do that is with the left hand with a reactive break, it actually helps accelerate the hitting arm. And when you watch Federer, as he's hitting the ball, if you notice, he has very little movement in the body. It's the same thing with Jack. They're letting their arm whip through. That's because they have a very quiet body as they're hitting the ball. It's the same idea on the serve, where as you're striking the ball, you want a very quiet idea. And then you'll notice that with Federer, his body catches up to his hands. But actually, Jack doesn't. I actually like this about Jack's forehand. So I would highly recommend you go out and film yourself and look at how you're swinging and compare it to the pros. And if you do, there's no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.